The stress management program again. For those who joined us last year, welcome back. And for all the new participants, it's nice to see you. So we wish you a prosperous new year and a healthy and safe 2021, given the one that we had last year. So I'm actually glad that all of you are joining so we can give you some pointers for this year. This is a very good way to start your year. So my name is Cecilia Denton. I'm an industrial psychologist and I work together with HR Talk. So you'll see on this, the presentation that I'm going to show you, it will refer to the Study Methods Academy. So just to not confuse you, this is a sister company of the psychometric department that we have. So that's just to not get too confused with all the names. This was originally developed for students, and but now we also see that there's a massive need for stress management in organizations. So we adjusted it a little bit, but if we do refer to a student here or there, just know that that's where it grew from. Any person can share this manual with anyone. So it's suitable for any age, and it's absolutely suitable for your younger children. So especially for children that's in school with all the stress that's going on, it's fantastic for them. It's made nicely. You'll see that we printed a new version. This is actually an e-guide. It's nicely full of pictures, and it's a self-completion guide, so you can complete it yourself. So it's a nice interactive guide, and the younger students actually quite like it. So let's run through this. I'm going to show you today a lot of things that you probably already know. I'm going to reiterate some of those things, and I'm also going to show you hopefully a few new things that you didn't know. So bear with me as we go along, because there may be things that you do know, and there may be things that we're going to just flesh out even further. So we won't just be referring to think positively. How are we going to do that? So because everyone is telling you today, think positively, but it's easier said than done. So there's a few things that we can show you how to do from a biological and a scientific point of view. So I'm going to hope to add some value. You will have access to this manual. Please give all of your names to HR Talk, whoever wants this manual. We actually sell it, but you're going to get it for free. This is a new printed version. There may be a spelling error or two in it. I already saw one. We will have it fixed before we send it to you. So just bear with us. But this is such a nice manual. I wanted to share the e-guide with you. It's a nice printed version. It's an interesting one, especially if you want to share it with your younger children. Then also, you are welcome to ask questions. Please do, because this is where it gets interesting, because we share people's real life issues. So type it on the screen. I'm going to answer it afterwards. Please participate. I want to encourage you to do so. Everyone always has got an interesting new question or something that they want to know, and everyone has got the same thing. So please share it. We want to know what it is that you're thinking and that you are going through. Believe me, a lot of people are sharing the same things. Also, I wanted to share with you that we do psychometric testing on a daily basis. Since last year, we found that people's stress levels are just elevated. So it is not just with you and your family in your circle that is happening. It is the pessimism as well as worry and anxiety has increased a lot. So for me, it is just incredibly important to get people to read a little bit more about stress management and how to control your worry and how to look after your physical self. So it's necessary. It's extremely necessary to do this. So let's start with this. So this is the complete stress management program, and it's meant for students and adults. All right, so this is what we're going to cover. We're going to look at stress. There will be some of the exercises that we can't do right now because we've got limited time. But when you get the manual, you print it out and you fill in all the questions, flesh it out for yourself, learn more about yourself, who you are. So we're firstly going to cover what is stress, How does worrying affect you? What is the difference between stress, worry, and anxiety? Believe it or not, there is a difference between the three. What can I do about stress? We will do an exercise, or I'll explain the exercise. You can do it by yourself at home. Understanding the brain and positive brain programming. Now, this part, we're going to get into the science of the brain. It's very, very interesting. Just briefly, it's not going to be too hectic and boring. It is actually very, very interesting. You cannot manage something that you don't know how it works. So we're going to briefly give you an overview of what happens in the brain. And then what can we do about it? That's where the positive brain programming comes in. There's also a stress test included into this manual. This is also something that you can do at home. It's a nice guide to tell you where your stress is lying. Is it below average, above average, or just average? I think it's a good thing for you to know. It's also a good thing if you're an employer with employees. You can do this with them so that you can know where do they fall on the scale. How bad is it, or is it okay? And then some tips to help with stress. Right, so let's start at the top. So according to Katrina Meyer, the day she let go of things that were weighing her down was the day she began to shine the brightest. So believe it or not, there are things we can do about stress and worry. Some things are inherent to us, and then some things are literally just bad habits, things that we've learned, but we think it's real. We think that is how it is. We can maybe break through some of that. So we're just going to explore some useful tips and techniques, and you can choose what it is that you want to use and whatnot. So let's start with part one. What is stress? So let's start with the definition of stress. So we hear this word everywhere, but what does it actually mean? So stress is the body's reaction to any change that requires an adjustment or a response. So stress is a normal part of life. So the body reacts to these changes with physical, mental, and emotional responses. But it's of course, it's normal. So you can experience stress from your environment, your body, and your thoughts. So let's break stress up into more detail. So everyone suffers from stress, even if you walk from one room to another, and there is a small difference in room temperature, the body needs to adjust to it. So there exists a situation that we need to adapt to. So it's during the adjustment phase or the adaptation phase that we either do well or we don't. So how do we recognize the stress? So let's look at the symptoms. So stress, there's just a nice little illustration here. Increased heat rate and blood pressure, impact of stress hormones on the immune processes, disturbance of the digestive system. So that's just a broad overview, but there's 4 symptoms of stress, and I want you to learn how to differentiate between the 4, because sometimes people have a combination of all of them, or it blurs together. They can't really see what is what. They think something is attributed to something else. You know, you think it's someone that's making you angry. It's their fault, but it's actually because you have a heightened level of stress. So I want you to learn the differences and become aware of how it is that you respond to stress, what happens in you, because not everyone is the same. So the first one is an emotional response to stress. So emotional means I become easily agitated, frustrated, or moody. I feel overwhelmed, like I'm losing control. I have difficulty relaxing, quieting my mind. I avoid others. I feel bad about myself. I'm lonely. I feel worthless or depressed. That is emotional. So then we have physical, low energy, headaches, insomnia, upset stomach, including diarrhea, constipation, whatever, aches and pains or tense muscles, chest pain, rapid heartbeat, like a heart palpitations, frequent colds and infections, loss of sexual desire in worst cases, nervousness and shaking, ringing in the ears, cold, sweaty hands and feet, dry mouth, clenched jaw. Those are all physical symptoms. So those are the physical things that you feel in your body. So we've had emotional, we've had physical. Let's look at the cognitive symptoms. So cognitive is that constant worrying, racing thoughts, inability to focus, forgetfulness. I'm disorganized. Have you ever felt flustered where you can't organize a thing. You take here, you leave there, you go like that. Then step away from the desk and just calm down. Poor judgment, being pessimistic. I think these are one of the biggest things that we see in South Africa in general at the moment is pessimism, seeing only the negative side, pessimism and constant worrying. So these are all cognitive. It happens in your brain. The last one, behavioral symptoms. So this is changes in appetite, either not eating, you're not eating or eating too much, you procrastinate, you maybe drink more, exhibit more nervous behavior such as nail biting, fidgeting, or pacing. Have you ever had that? I love this procrastinating one, especially I remember when I used to study, you have to start, but you do everything except that thing. You later on fixing cupboards, making other things neat, cleaning, except starting. So that is a typical behavioral stress when you are doing everything except what you're supposed to. So I want you to start thinking about who are you. You'll have a combination, or you could have one that comes out more than any of the rest. So just become aware. Awareness is going to be your key to anything that you want to work on or change. So just learn about yourself. So those are the 4 symptoms of stress. Then let's look at what stress is. Stress equals tension. So stress could be described as an inner psychological or emotional or physiological tension in the muscles. This condition happens when more is expected of you than you can actually handle. So this indicates that the individual does not have the ability or the infrastructure to cope with the demand. So when you have to do work in 10 minutes time, you only have an hour, stress will be caused. So important for you to know that adrenaline and noradrenaline are secreted into the bloodstream. Those are the hormones, the stress hormones. If this continues over time, this could cause the body to become ill or cause psychological discomfort, such as anxiety, fear, tension, and depression. So I want to give you, before I forget, the only way that you can get rid of these hormones in your bloodstream, because these are the hormones that makes you sick on the short term, like flu and stuff, or sick on the long term. Now we're looking at your heart disease, maybe heart attacks on the long term. How do you get the hormones out of your blood? It's the simplest answer ever. This is why people tell you to exercise, because exercise is the thing that gets this out of your bloodstream. I believe that meditation, yoga type of exercises will also get it out of the blood, but running or go walking or exercise, any form of exercise after work will get the hormones out of the blood. So there you win already. That's why people tell you need to exercise. So let's do a self-check. At this current moment, what are your main causes of stress and what are your symptoms? So this is something you can do at home, but I want you to already start thinking, what are my causes of stress? And then what are my symptoms of stress? You can handle it better if you know what causes it, because some of it you can control, some of them you just have to accept. You don't have to eliminate every single thing in your life. You don't have to be that perfect. Sometimes you just have to manage what you have. But then I want you to identify what are the symptoms. So I want you to split it and start thinking about it. All right. The next one, how does worrying affect you? So why do you worry? So in my experience, what I found, what people tell me is, firstly, they imagine that they can prevent bad things from happening if they worry enough. I think everyone knows that it's not true, but I think if you really go into it, you imagine that you can prevent it if you sort of think about it beforehand. And then the second one, they imagine that if they don't worry, it means that they don't care. I've heard a lot of people say this. Sometimes I don't even think people think about it like that, but when I spell it out for them, they say that is exactly it. It feels like I don't care. It's absolutely not true. So to be aware of the two. So both of these beliefs provide a false sense of security because it's not true. So in fact, some researchers have found that the reason why we worry is due to the absence of facts that prove that everything will be okay. So because we don't have facts that telling us that don't worry, it's going to be okay, therefore we worry. Because before I go into an exam and a test, I don't know what's going to be the outcome. So because I don't know whether it's going to be okay or not, I worry about it. So without that evidence, we worry. So the actual fact is that we do not know whether everything will be good or bad. You don't know if it's going to be okay or not. We actually do not know anything. Isn't it true? You don't know anything. This creates doubt, and when doubt arrives, we treat it as fear. So any form of doubt, just think about it. As soon as there is uncertainty, we've been through a whole year of uncertainty. You don't know if you're going to lose your job. You don't know if you're going to have enough money. You don't know if you're going to be able to pay the bills. All of those things is doubt, and doubt creates the fear. And how do you handle fear? You handle fear in a defensive way. You're ready for it. You try and think of ways that they're going to get you. So ultimately, life and our futures are unknown. So currently, we're just in a little bit of a worse situation where it's a little bit more exaggerated. But as a matter of fact, even before COVID, you did not know what was going to happen. Your life and your future were unknown. You thought you had control over it, but did you really? You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You've got absolutely no idea. Now we just think it's worse, but actually before COVID, it was exactly the same. You didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. The one thing that we can be certain about is that we do not know anything. Whether things are going to turn out good or bad, you don't know. Whether there's COVID or not, you didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. So, for example, if we worry that I may get into a car accident when going on holiday, it is a useless effort because we 100% do not know whether we will be or not be in a car accident. But we do sometimes worry about it, don't we? We're worried we're going to get to the other end. 100% you do not know whether you'll get there okay. So you cannot say that you're going to get there maybe getting into an accident or not. You don't know. The truth is that worry has absolutely no purpose and that it's totally useless. So worry is based on fear and not on what's likely to happen, but rather what would be terrible if it did happen. Isn't that true? We always think about, wouldn't it be terrible if over the Christmas period I end up in hospital because of a car accident? Our minds often like to imagine the effects of these horrible outcomes, which is all based on creative and proactive thinking. I want to look at this definition of worry. I'm going to spell out this definition of worry, and then I'm going to analyze this. Once you print out this manual, you can actually go circle the words that I'm focusing on. So this is a textbook definition of worry. So worry refers to thoughts, images, emotions, and actions of a negative nature in a repetitive and uncontrollable manner that results from proactive cognitive risk analysis made to avoid or solve anticipated potential threats and their potential consequences. So let's read it again because it's quite a mouthful. I'm going to break it up into pieces just now. Worry refers to thoughts, images, and emotions and actions that's of a negative nature in a repetitive, uncontrollable manner that results from a proactive cognitive risk analysis made to avoid or solve anticipated problems, anticipated potential threats and their potential consequences. So let's look at the first problem that I want to look at in this paragraph. So now the first problem. Now primarily the above definition refers to a negative thought. Interestingly enough, we do not always focus on possible positive things that could happen. But for the most part, we brainstorm all sorts of different things that could happen that are negative or disastrous. We don't think constantly, repetitively about the good things that can happen or disastrous things that we are most likely to think about the negative things that can happen. So, for example, I will not do well in my test, or I fear a car accident while driving on holiday. I'm going to use the same example constantly because I want to try and make a point with that. So I will not do well in my test, or I fear a car accident while driving on holiday. So the solution to this is, the reason why people do this is to avoid disappointment. When I do fail my test, I can at least say that I knew it will happen or that I was prepared for it. So the disappointment is not so harsh. There's a typical defense this is a typical defense mechanism. So of course, if I preempted the car accident, I won't be so shocked or surprised because I was expecting it. So in some way, I could possibly be hoping that the pain will be less when I get the news. The solution to this way of thinking is to direct your thoughts back to neutral. So the bottom line is that you 100% do not know what will happen. So allow yourself to accept that is the truth. So that's the only thing that you do know with certainty, is that 100% you do not know what's going to happen. So allow yourself to accept that as the truth. So whenever you start thinking about things that could go wrong, go back to neutral, because you really do not know. The second problem. So the second thing that I want to highlight in that definition is, secondly, this definition focuses on proactive thinking about the risk. So this suggests that we run ahead with what could possibly happen. That is, of course, negative. But we actively and proactively think about the consequences. So, for example, it does not matter how hard I study, I will fail anyway, or my client owes me money and I will never see it. So you see, very proactive. It's made up very proactively, sort of made up in line with what could possibly go wrong. So the solution is, this proactivity is possibly related to previous experience, because we are making something up. We make it up because we've seen it in the past. We've heard it happen to some other people, and we definitely don't want this disaster to happen to us. So you can calm yourself down. You can calm down this proactive creative thinking, because once again, you actually do not know anything. So remember, every single situation is different, even your events and experiences from the past. So although there are similarities, the outcome may still be different. So once again, it could be similar or different. You do not know. So here I just want to address that proactive thinking about what can go wrong. So once you find yourself, because you could have, the first problem was, I'm thinking about something negative. The second one is, I'm proactively thinking about everything that can happen. So calm down those proactive thoughts. Calm that down and bring it back to neutral, because the outcome could be similar or different. You don't know. It could be good or bad, but you don't know. So bring yourself back to that. Give yourself a break and say, I really don't know. I don't think it's expected of anyone to know these things. So third problem, let's address the third problem that's highlighted in that definition. So the definition ends with a focus on potential threat and potential consequences. So remember what we said earlier, we do not know anything. We do not know whether the outcome will be good or bad. So what you're probably trying to do here is to combat or avoid disaster by predicting it. So we convince ourselves that if we know what will happen, then we can prepare for it, or the result will not be as devastating because we were expecting it. So, and I reiterate, potential threat, potential consequence, because that's all that it is. It's not there yet. So my example, I always do bad in my tests, or I worry that we will get into a car accident while driving on holiday. So let's look at the solution. Here you can do practical things that are in your power. So for example, you may say to me, but I know it's going to happen if in my test. I know it's going to go badly. The thing that is in your power is there are some things that you can control, but you only want to control the things that you can control. You cannot control the things that you cannot control. So let's look at the practical things. So here we can do some practical things that are in our power. You need to accept what is in your power and what is not. Practical things are in your power. What will happen in the future is not in your power. So you may be able to do a few simple things that could have a better effect on the future. Not control it, but influence it. So for example, save some money now for the future. Do not drink and drive. Plan your studies. To do well in tests, you can attend school and put time into your study for your test. So you can help the exam process, the test process, by studying effectively. If you didn't do anything at all, I mean, of course, it's then going to be a disaster. But if you do the things that's in your control that you can do, then that is your contribution. That is your part that you do. If you drive on a holiday, you can do practical things. For example, take a lot of breaks, eat well, focus while driving, don't use your cell phone, don't drink and drive, whatever. Those are practical things that you can do. Those are things that's in your control that you can do. What else is going to happen, you cannot control. So let's look at this second paragraph here. Plan your studies to do well in tests. You can attend school. You can put in your time to study for tests. You can manage your time and stresses effectively. You can draft a roster. You can schedule your studies. You can take regular breaks. There's a lot of things you can do. But remember, there's a difference between influencing it and controlling it. Some things you just cannot control. All right. So what I wanted to say about the driving on a holiday, for example. So even if something do go wrong, you can rest assured that you did not do anything intentionally that was bad, but your intentions were good because you did look after yourself. There were things that you did that you knew that you should have done. There will be no regret or things like that afterwards. But also just remember that you're just human. You're just human. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're human. So I've listed a few things that I think why people think in disastrous ways. So what I found with experience amongst people, this is what they usually tell me. Predicting disaster often creates a false impression that we will avoid disappointment. We resist changing our thinking patterns because it is less effort and more comfortable to choose the old way of thinking. So changing our thoughts could and does require additional effort. Habit could be one of our worst enemies. It's so easy to fall back in that state where you feel sorry for yourself. So just be aware of that. Low skills recognition in oneself. One could lead us to believe that we do not have the necessary skills and knowledge to complete the task successfully. Identify your skills and recognize them. You probably have most of them, like you should have. Low self-esteem could lead us to believe that the effort that we put in is not good enough. Experience, we've seen it in the past and we're convinced it will happen again. This is a big one. We think it's going to happen again and we would hate for it to happen to us. Lack of support from others. We often underestimate how important support from family and friends are. Here you can choose supportive friends, supportive positive friends, or avoid negative unsupportive friends. Make sure that you distinguish between these. And then recognize whether you are a supporter or a burden to someone else. So look at what it is that you can do. I found that most people get a lot of energy and motivation when they start giving and stop taking. So be aware of that. Let's jump to the next one. I want to go through the difference between stress, worry, and anxiety. There is a difference between them. Even when we test people psychologically, we measure it in different categories. That's good news, by the way, and I'm going to tell you why. So let's start immediately with stress. So what is stress? Stress happens in the body. Stress is an emotional response and is usually caused by external triggers. So it could be anything. It could be exams, traffic, boyfriend, girlfriend problems, poverty, unfairness at work, illness, and more. Worry is different from stress in the sense that it's mostly internal thinking that happens in the mind. So it often is triggered by something that is real in life, for example, getting cancer or losing a job, but it is followed by unreal imagined thinking that could or will happen to you. Worry is defined by internal thinking about problems or unpleasant things that may happen, and this causes you to feel fearful and unhappy. In simple terms, worry is something that has not happened yet, whereas stress is happening. Very important to know. This is the nice thing. Stress could be all over and around us. We can't control a lot of it because COVID is happening, job losses are happening, but worry is the thing that I can control. If you are so stressed that your worry becomes dysfunctional, you could actually affect your ability to make decisions and to maneuver and to plan and to get other solutions for your problems. So worry is usually habit. It's learned from how other people showed you how to cope with things. Also, you're trying to be responsible. You're trying to worry about the money stuff because you're a responsible person. You want to pay your bills. So also don't be so hard on yourself. I'm not saying that you need to eliminate all these things out of your life, but have a healthy level of stress and a healthy amount of worry. Accept that there's some things that you need to let go. So absolutely think about it like that. But also don't worry too much. Don't worry too much if you worry too much, because if you are an accountable, responsible person, it is something that may happen naturally. Just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on your wording. And we're going to go just quickly now, later on in this thing, we're going to go through what you can say to yourself and the impact that that's got on you. Anxiety is how everything links together. Anxiety happens in the mind and the body and is caused by persistent excessive worrying about things. So there's two things that can happen here. So anxiety can be caused by excessive worrying. Interestingly enough, this can happen when there's no stressors around. I can literally work myself up into a frenzy when there's nothing happening. Everything is going well with me, but I can work myself up into a frenzy. On the other hand, a build-up of a lot of stressors over a long period of time can also cause anxiety. So can you see that my worry can cause anxiety, but separately the stressors can also. But anxiety can exist without stressors. You can actually work yourself up into a frenzy just because you're making stuff up. Unfortunately, anxiety has the same symptoms as stress, as we've explained in the beginning of this manual. So go through all of those symptoms of stress again, but try and distinguish between what is your stresses, what is your worry, and what is your anxiety. All right. Once you can identify your stress and your worry, you will be able to manage your anxiety automatically. All right. So let's look at the good news. There's good stress and bad stress. You also, all of you, I'm sure you know this. We just don't want our good stress to go into distress. That's why you want to keep an eye on it. Good stress is good because it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you vigilant. It keeps you, it helps you to make decisions and plan well. But then again, give yourself a break at some point and say, that was enough. That amount of worry and thinking about it is enough. Give yourself a break. You don't want it to go into the bad stress that we call distress. All right, let's go to what I can do about stress. So I'm going to show you a very simple thing. So what can I do about stress? So first, we're going to look at the emotion. Let's just break stress up quickly. First, we want to look at the emotion. So when you experience a stressful situation, what feelings or emotions do you experience? So is it insecurity? Is it irritability, frustration? You can list yours. Then we look at the situation. What situation elicits the stress? So we need to understand what types of situation triggers the stress in order to manage it properly. So the feeling is a reaction to something. Is it something someone said, getting back test results? Is it a piece of music that reminds you of something sad? Anxiety, sadness, anger. It's after the situation that we then experience the emotion. This is where the anxiety, the sadness, the anger, insecurity comes in. So this is very important. So first you have your situation, your stressor. Then we have the emotion, anxiety, sadness, anger. So think about when you drive into traffic, that's your situation. That elicits an emotion, which could be frustration or irritation or anger or whatever. Or we have a physiological symptom, which is tension in the neck, headache, not in the stomach, or, where you sit in the car and you're very angry about the fact that you've just driven into all of this traffic. And that is when your behaviors are triggered. So you've got a situation which elicits an emotion, and that is when we feel, let me just go back to that. You have the emotions, even physiological emotions, and then you try to adapt to it. So when you're driving your car, you drive into traffic, you're experiencing emotions. The way that you may behave towards it is you may be driving erratically or hooting at people, whatever, but you're doing something to try and address the stress that you have. All right, so it should be understood that the emotional experience is a result of a reaction towards a stressful situation. The emotional response or the physiological response does not just exist. There has to be a situation that triggers it. A lot of people think that they're just stressed, but go work it backwards. Go back and go identify what type of things get you to this point. When you can differentiate like that, you're already on a winning path. So a lot of people think that they're just stressed. It's a blur. It's blurred. Go write it down. In this manual, it's going to have a place where you can actually write down what it is that you want to define. Because people think that it's all blurred into one. It's not. There will definitely be a situation. Even if it's the smallest thing someone said, it elicits an emotion and then you've got a behavior to try and help yourself in this situation. So now you think you need to think about your own life and experiences. How does a normal situation elicit stress? So, for example, if you did not do so well in one of your tests, how do you think about it? Make sure that you differentiate between the situation, emotion, and behavior. This you can do on your own. We don't have a lot of time to do it right now, but this is what you can do on your own. So your thinking process may be, I always do badly. I can never remember what I've studied. It doesn't matter what I do. I fail. I always fail. So what is the secret? So the secret lies within your thinking. So a lot of you may also know this, or you may not know this. It is incredibly simple, but it is all because of you. So I asked you previously, if you drive directly into traffic, is the traffic actually stressful? So my answer to that is everyone says yes, but it's actually not. Traffic is just a bunch of cars in a road. It's not alive. It can't do anything actually to you. You have your situation. It is the thinking about the situation that causes the stress. When you drive into traffic and you realize now I'm going to be late and now I'm angry or whatever, that is the thinking about it which causes the emotion, which then causes your behavior. So you need to start breaking this up into phases, and you need to start controlling your thinking process. So this is incredibly important because people think that it's these outside things that they can't control that's causing all of this. It is not. It is your thinking process. You are 100% responsible for your thinking process. Yes, there is now traffic. It's just one of those things. Yes, there is now just COVID. It is just there. That is just a thing that is happening. It is the way that you think about it that is causing your emotion, which is frustration and anger, which cause you to drive erratically or whatever. So this is the only thing that you can control, and this is going to give you the power to control your whole 2021 is the way that you think about things. Think about when you're standing around a dry place fear and everyone is talking about the stuff that they actually can't control, and it gets worse and it builds up. It's horrible. You feel terrible at the end of that discussion because you are thinking all about the things that is happening that you don't have control about. But the things that you can control is how you think about it, and only practical things that you can do to get around it. All right, so part 5 is an exercise you can do on your own. This is a total breakup of everything that we went through right now. To break up so that you can start learning how to manage your thinking. That will help you to cluster everything. You have to separate it. It's not just one big mushed in thing where you are frustrated, irritated, and tired at the end of the day. No, it's not. Trace your steps back. What caused the first thing, then the second thing, and break it up like that. You will definitely be able to manage your stress better if you analyze it like that. I quickly, before we run out of time, want to run through the understanding of the brain. So this is very, very important. This manual, we've discussed stress, worry, and anxiety together with how to manage and cope with it. It is important that we also explain to you what happens in the brain. So everyone, maybe some of you can remember from biology in high school, what the dendrites look like in the brain. So this is the means of communication. So this is what we teach children in school, and this is what is incredibly important. The first thing that I ask younger students, I say to them, stress for them is easy. You just ask them, do you remember the time when you went blank? Just before you wrote your exam or test, you went blank. That is the brilliant, the most brilliant example of stress that you can give a younger person that's still in school. So I'm going to explain to you why you go blank. There's a perfectly good explanation for it, but the same principle applies to everything else. You know, when you sit in a meeting and you burst out in a sweat and you have to say something and your mouth goes dry, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Everyone just has a different type of symptom. So the brain is made up of millions of dendrites. These dendrites are means of communication in the brain and ensure that messages are passed forwards and backwards. So there are hair-like follicles. Can you see the hair-like follicles here on the dendrite? This carries the neurotransmitter. There's a lot of stuff that's carried by the neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitter is the chemical that passes messages. A hell of a lot of things happens in the neurotransmitter that it's like a fluid. Everything happens there. Happiness, sadness, depression, schizophrenia, everything. The secret of our brain lies in that neurotransmitter. Most of the medicines that we take affects the neurotransmitter. So the more you tell yourself, I cannot do it, I cannot remember it, I'm not smart enough, I'm too stressed or worried, the fewer of these hair-like follicles will be there. So there's less of them. This will inhibit the messages from going through easily. That's when you go blank. It's because you're working yourself up. You know that point where you want to say something in a meeting, now you can't remember and you're flustered. It's because your anxiety and your stress is actually making the hair follicles become less, and the message just can't go through. The message is there. This is the very important thing. The message is there. That's why I tell children, you did not forget because you are stupid. It is there. You are just blocking the message. This is the most important thing that I wanted to tell you today. It's critical. But now what can we do about it? So changing our internal dialogue can prevent this. This will also happen with practice. We need to practice this thing. So people ask me, what's internal dialogue? It sounds like a big fancy word. It's actually just all our communication with ourselves. Sometimes people talk out loud to themselves. Other people talk quietly to themselves. It depends on whether you're introverted, extroverted. Everyone's got their own habits. But whether you talk to yourself out loud or quietly in your head, that's the conversation that we have with ourselves on a daily basis. Think about what you say to yourself every single day. Whether you talk to yourself out loud or silently, it doesn't matter. What you say to yourself is incredibly important. So are you your own friend or foe? Do you give yourself compliments or do you put yourself down regularly? You know how easy it is to say to yourself, idiot, I did this wrong again. Those things you're programming yourself. So just be aware of what you say to yourself. So if your internal dialogue is negative and you put yourself down, you will have fewer hair follicles on the dendrites, and the less neurotransmitters will be carried out, which will result in unable to remember clearly, stressing even more, breaking out in a sweat, heart palpitations, shaking, shivering, or going blank. You could have experienced any of these symptoms. Maybe you've not experienced all of these symptoms, but I'm sure some of them. So now what can we do about it? So let's look at the positive brain programming. So there's such a nice lot of sayings here, but I don't want to distract you right now. We'll look at it later. So change your thinking. So this is very important that you need to teach your children or anyone that you can think of. In order to do well in exams or at work, you need to understand that one of the greatest barriers to success is your attitude to the whole exam process. As many things in life, the way you choose to view this can change your feelings and performance dramatically. So now that you know what your internal dialogue is, you need to know what to do with it. I want to encourage you to type questions if you have any. Okay. So now that you know what your internal dialogue is, you need to know what to do with it. So firstly, your brain does not know when you're talking the truth. Remember, the brain is just an organ. It just sits there. It does not know when you're talking the truth. The brain knows what is the truth by experience. So whatever you tell your brain, it will believe you. This is very important. We think that we know what's the truth and what's not. We don't. Your brain does not know anything. So if you tell your brain you are stressed, it's going to believe you. If you tell your brain that you're not capable, it will believe you. If you tell your brain that you're not good enough, it will believe you. If you tell your brain that you are well prepared and relaxed, it will believe you. So this is incredibly important. Whatever you tell your brain, it's going to believe you. If you tell your brain, I cannot remember, or I'm not good enough, whatever, it's going to believe you. That's how it works. That's how the brain works. So you program yourself from a young age that you're ugly, fat, slow, not good enough, not clever enough, not strong enough. And interestingly enough, we do fall back on the negative just very quickly. I don't know what it is. I think there is a science behind it. I will explore that in more detail, but we are quite inclined to fall back on the negatives. So now you repeatedly tell that to yourself, and you're expecting to do well. So suddenly you are trying to be fast, clever, and great. But how are you supposed to be all those things after you've trained yourself that you're not good enough? So perhaps you are one of those people who are good to yourself and compliment yourself on a daily basis. If you are, great, keep on doing so. But remember, there's also a big difference between someone who's full of themselves versus someone who's just got positive thoughts. That was one of the other things that I had, problem that I had, is people feel that they're being full of themselves if they praise themselves. So just learn the difference. You need to know another secret, that there's never any good reason to put yourself down ever. So the good news is, you can reprogram yourself by repeating positive statements to yourself. Now, remember, everyone all over the internet, they say positive programming, say positive affirmations, positive sayings. Why do they say that? There's actually a reason in there. It's a good reason. So the good news is that you do not have to believe yourself, but the biochemical reaction will take place in any way when you say it. So if I sit here and I'm incredibly nervous and I say to myself, I am calm, I don't have to believe myself, but if I repeat it and I do it every day, my brain will slowly but surely start to adapt. It will adapt on the short, in a moment right there where you're sitting, maybe a little bit. It's not going to be dramatic. It's going to be very subtle. It will also change over time. It will totally change. You will learn to become more calm. But it's, I always would compare it to diets. We don't want to do a diet here. Crash diets is not for us. This is a healthy way of living. You're not going to just say it once or twice quickly now and expect it to work. You are going to write down positive affirmations and say it every day. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. You're going to say it every day. So you're going to repeat, I can, I have, I am, whatever. I am great, I am smart, I'm clever. I always tell people, write down your weakness. If you know that you are always anxious, say that there's no need to be stressed or worried. I am prepared and I'm ready. I am happy. I sleep well. So repeat, just get like 3 or so. You don't have to have millions. I used to have only like 3 and just repeat it to myself, and I started to believe it after time. So you will start believing it after time. But what most people do, they say it once or twice, or today, tomorrow they don't do anything, and then they say it didn't work. Or they're incredibly anxious right now. They say, but I am calm, I am calm, I am calm. Oh no, I'm not calm. And they stress because it's not working. You need to give your brain and your body time. It doesn't just work like that. Give yourself time, ease into it, make yourself used to it, but you have to commit to it because the science says that it will work. Science is science, it works. So let me look at the time. Okay, we've got 10 minutes left. So that is an incredibly important lesson. So here is another exercise that you can do when you've got the manual. And the stress test that I've got here, we obviously won't do today. It's actually a real good, accurate, short little test. It's just going to tell you your stress levels is below average, average, or high average. I think it's just a good indication of just getting a feel of maybe, see, there's only 10 questions of how your people, how you are feeling, how your family's feeling, maybe your employees are feeling. You could really do it with anyone. It's freely available on the internet, so it's just a nice scan. But if you do find people with higher average scores of stress, don't just leave it there. Then you want to do something about it, especially if it's someone in your family or whatever. Then you want to do something about it. You can always contact us. Don't just leave it there. If you know something now, don't just leave it there. So tips to help with stress. I'm going to lastly just run to help with stress. Some of this you will definitely know. Hopefully some things are new. So attitude is a choice. Happiness is a choice. Optimism is a choice. Kindness is a choice. Giving is a choice. Respect is a choice. So whatever choice you make, choose wisely. That is really true. We think that everything is out of our control. What you are thinking and what it is that you can do is actually fairly simple. But in this part that we're going to go through now, I want to urge you to explore more things for yourself, educate yourself, learn what is it that you like, what it is that you want to do. Last year, I told people that there are so many things that they know already, and a lot of people can say that they don't do it. All of us know that you need to exercise. and that you need to eat healthy. How many of you are really doing that? So you've got no excuse. Okay, so let's look at this. Eat healthy on a daily basis. Research types of food that supports the immune system and is good for the central nervous system. Okay, so I'm going to give you a simple example. Did you know that basil that you buy at Woolworths, sometimes it's on special, you buy the little plant, normal basil has got the properties to open up the bronchiole in the lung when it's covered in infection and slime because of bronchitis. Did any one of you know that? So it would be a great thing to, on a daily basis, try and get as much of this in as you can. Make a like a paste or pesto with it. It's easy. You take basil, garlic, a few nuts, and olive oil. You make a paste, put it over your pasta. There you've got garlic and basil already. It's proven to open up the lungs. I mean, I think that's exactly what we need right now. Things like ginger and turmeric, everyone knows that works very well. You mix these things with honey, you take it on a daily basis. It is good for when you are sick, and it's incredibly good for prevention, for way in advance. I had COVID in the UK, not last year, the year before, in December. And I am convinced that the amount of turmeric, ginger, honey, and lemon that I took in helped me, together with obviously normal medicine that I took. But I think if it wasn't for this, I don't know how it would have turned out. And I took a lot. I took a lot of it. So research these things. It's all over the internet. Every single herb and vegetable has got a property. Even like your normal types of herbs. I can't remember the name that I wanted to mention now. Maybe it'll come back to me. But there's almost all the herbs that you can find has got something very, very good for you. So avoid all sugars at all costs. This puts strain on the brain, may cause sleepiness and drowsiness. Also know that sugar clogs the body as well. Sugar also affects your hormones. If you're a woman, remember you can get hormonal imbalances. It affects the hormones directly. So sugar, we all know, is just incredibly bad. So minimize it as much as you possibly can. Rather snack on nuts, biltong, droges, cheese, cold meats if you need something. If you're a vegetarian, there's a lot of vegetables that are proteins. For example, broccoli, which I didn't know, and broccoli and lentils and those types of things. So and I think spinach, I'm not sure, but spinach, kale, broccoli should be part of your daily life. There should be no excuse. Those things are also cancer preventing. There should be no excuse. You can work it in one of your meals a day. There's no excuse for that. Reward yourself with something nice afterwards. You don't have to deprive yourself, but work on a rewarding system. Exercise regularly and between study periods. So remember, I told you that exercise will get all the adrenaline and stress-related hormones out of the blood. So it's not a myth. That's why everyone keeps on saying exercise until, we're bored with that. That's how people talk about exercise. Start doing it. It also boosts your immune system. The immune system is all the drainage things in your body, like the, I'm out of words today, but the immune system is all the areas that flushes things. And so you want to exercise will actually help to flush the system. It's purely the running, the rhythm of the running, and the movement of the arms. Apparently it cleanses all your glands. So please do not underestimate the importance of the exercise for your immune system. Google what is the immune system, and you'll see how it works. Take vitamin B supplements. It supports the central nervous system. The central nervous system is a very important system in your body, and we all neglect it. So the central nervous system gets affected by things like caffeine, spicy foods, of course, your anxiety and everything. You work up your central nervous system. Your central nervous system, you really want to look after. The way that you can do that, exercise, and very importantly, things like meditation. So The central nervous system is the thing that you calm down. That's why when you do breathing exercises or when you meditate, the central nervous system gets calmed down immediately. That's incredibly important. Research meditation in the central nervous system. Please do. Vitamin B supplements will help with that. Get enough sleep. I want to go back to that point. I don't even take any supplements. I eat my supplements. So I eat kale, spinach, broccoli, ginger, those things every single day. I don't take any supplements anymore, and my immune system is incredibly, incredibly strong. Get enough sleep and power naps. So sleep is the thing that fixes you. If you are sick in the slightest, smallest way that you're not even aware of in your body, sleep fixes it. So your sleep is incredibly, incredibly important. That's how people heal. We do not heal from things because we don't always sleep well. We go sleep too late. We get up too early. We sleep interrupted. We watch our phones and iPads up until late in the night, which has got the effect on the eye where, you can't just go from this bright light to nothing. Google also guided meditations and things for when you sleep at night. Those things, music alone has got an effect on the hormones in the body. I don't know if you knew that, but music has scientifically proven to have an effect. Baroque music has got an effect on your concentration. Excellent for children. Even if you're at work, play Baroque music in the background. It's scientifically proven to increase your concentration. I've studied up to master's degree level with that, and I promise you that it works. So try it. Then also meditation, we spoke about that. Meditation, yoga, breathing techniques. The Art of Living is an excellent organization that provides all of these things. They teach you from scratch at a fraction of the cost. It's now even cheaper because it's COVID. I think they've got breathing courses for 350 Rand or something for teenagers, and they've got courses for children between like 8 and 11 or something. Then they've got for teenagers, and then they've got for adults. So you can, with your children, do these courses. Just go Google it. It is priceless. Burn aromatherapy oils for relaxation, like lavender, chamomile. So also aromatherapy oils, but the true aromatherapy oils, though, don't just go for like a potpourri type of oil. It must be aromatherapy oil. Every single oil has got a purpose. So you can also Google this. There's like books that was written about which one helps for what. So lavender and chamomile for relaxation. But if you look at lemon verbena, burn lemon verbena in a candle burner for optimization of concentration during studying or working. I've never studied without it. Once I was taught this, I'm always with my lemon verbena, even now, if I feel fatigued or whatever. Sorry, guys, it's 10 o'clock, but I just want to finish quickly. Do not use any new medication before. This is for people that write exam. Don't experience with funny things when you're on the brink of doing something new. And don't forget the benefit of soothing music. Keep a positive attitude, accept there are things that you cannot control. Be assertive instead of aggressive. Assert your feelings, opinions, and beliefs instead of becoming angry, defensive, or passive. Manage your time more effectively. This has got an impact on your stress levels. Set time limits appropriately, set limits to say no. Make time for hobbies, interest, and relaxation. It's now more important than ever. Hobbies, interest, and relaxation, more important than ever right now. Seek out social support, spend enough time with those you enjoy, and then in here is just a breathing exercise that you can do that you can also find on the internet. Just Google it. So it doesn't look like anyone had any questions for me. Please put any questions on the screen, and we can go through that. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. We just went 2 minutes past, so that is at least, it's not so bad. Okay, any questions that you have? I'm going to give you maybe around about a minute. Let me see what is here. Sorry, there is something in the chat. Let me just see. Okay, someone just said, thank you so much. Doesn't anyone have any stress-related questions? Anything that you would like to know? Okay, I will definitely send you all the manual. There's one spelling error that's like a thorn in my eye. I'm just going to fix that, and then I'm going to send it to you. But please send you. You've got my email address. Let me actually just write down your email address. You can email me directly, or you can contact HR Talk also directly. If you want the manual, but you're welcome to if it looks like I'm forgetting about you, please remind me. You are more than welcome to get the manual. There's no better time than today to learn it a little bit more about how to manage your stress, but it's going to take a little bit of discipline on your side. All right, doesn't look like there's any other questions. Okay. Well, it's a big pleasure to everyone. I really hope that you enjoyed it. You know now what you need to go and do. So it's all up to you now. So, but please contact us, even if we can help you with your staff members, or if you yourself need help. We do have tests that's a little bit of a deeper screening about stress. So you can do this screening that's in this manual, but there are tests that you can go into a little bit deeper, where you can zoom in deeper into yourself or your employees, and we can actually tell them what they need to do. Everyone's stress levels will be different, you know, because it depends on what support they've got. It depends on quite a lot of things. So don't think that everyone is the same as you. Don't think that everyone is coping in the same way as you. All right, so I think that we are going to log off. Thank you for everyone's participation. Please keep in touch. There's going to be more presentation webinars done by HR Talk, but then us as PTS Consulting will also do. You'll see me in between. So please keep in touch. There's going to be more interesting things to do. Perhaps later we can do a stress again. All right. Thank you, everyone.